It started on a warm Saturday afternoon in a quiet Georgia town, the kind of place where everyone knows each other and nothing ever really happens. 7-year-old Emma Carter was playing near the swings at the local park, just a few feet from where her mom was chatting with another parent. Laughter echoed, kids ran in every direction, and the sun lit up the playground like something out of a picture book. But in the blink of an eye, Emma was gone. 1 minute she was there, pink sneakers in the mulch, a juice box in hand. The next, nothing. No scream, no struggle, no sign of where she went. The whole town turned into a search team overnight. Volunteers combed through nearby woods. Neighbors knocked on doors, and helicopters scanned the sky. Police dogs, flyers, news cameras, everything. But days turned to weeks, then months, and not a single clue ever surfaced. Emma's disappearance haunted the town like a wound that refused to heal. Her photo stayed taped to shop windows and pinned above cash registers, but hope slowly faded. People stopped talking about it out loud, but no one ever forgot. Then, nearly a year later, a janitor doing routine cleanup near the edge of the same park noticed something odd tucked behind the bush, something that had no reason to be there. At first, he thought it was just trash. But when he stepped closer, what he saw made his heart drop and changed everything they thought they knew. The janitor's name was Tom Reeves, quiet man in his 60s who had worked at the park for over 20 years. He'd seen the community at its best and its worst, and like everyone else in town, he remembered Emma's disappearance like it happened yesterday. He was the one who cleaned the park benches the day she vanished. He still remembered the juice box left behind half full, straw still in it. That morning, as he walked his usual route with a trash bag in one hand and a picker in the other, something caught his eye behind a thick patch of bushes near the old picnic shelter. It was a small pink backpack, worn and dirty, but unmistakably a child's. He hesitated. That area had been searched dozens of times in the early days. Police, volunteers, even search dogs had passed through it. So how could something like this show up now? Tom's hands trembled as he knelt down and unzipped the bag. Inside were crumpled papers, a cracked plastic bracelet, and a faded photograph of a young girl with red hair. He didn't waste a second. He called the police right there, barely able to explain what he found. Within minutes, the park was swarming with investigators once again. But as they looked closer, they found something hidden beneath the dirt near the base of the tree behind the bushes. Whatever it was had been placed there recently, and it wasn't just a backpack. It was a message. Police cordoned off the area immediately. Forensics teams moved in, carefully clearing dirt and foliage near the tree where Tom had found the backpack. What they uncovered next sent chills through the crowd gathering just outside the Tapes Mall. Childlike handprints pressed into the soil, too clear to be from a year ago. It was almost like someone had just been there. Sheriff Miller, who had led the original search, stared at the evidence in disbelief. "This wasn't missed," he murmured. "This is new." The discovery set off a wave of questions. Had someone brought the backpack back? Was Emma still alive and close by? And if so, who had kept her hidden all this time? As detectives reopened the case, they began to quietly re-interview townspeople who had lived near the park. One name kept coming up: a former groundskeeper who'd suddenly left town just days after Emma disappeared. He had been quiet, mostly kept to himself, but some remembered him watching the children a little too closely at the same time. Emma's mother, Rachel, returned to the park for the first time in months. Her face was pale, her eyes tired, but alert. She stood near the tree where the backpack was found, clutching a photo of Emma from her last birthday. "If someone's trying to tell us something," she whispered, "I'm listening." But behind the trees, farther into the woods, something else was found that same afternoon, something far more disturbing than a backpack. And this time, It wasn't just a clue. Deeper in the woods, just past the walking trail that had long been closed to the public, officers discovered what appeared to be an old storm shelter hidden under thick vines and brush. It wasn't marked on any town maps, and most locals didn't even know it existed. The metal door was rusted, but the padlock on it was brand new. That alone raised alarms. The sheriff called for backup before anyone attempted to open it. Meanwhile, Rachel stood at the edge of the clearing, watching from a distance. Her hands trembled, but she refused to leave. Something in her gut told her this place had answers, maybe the answers she'd waited for all year. One officer approached with bolt cutters and, with a deep breath, snapped the lock. The heavy door groaned open. A narrow set of stairs led down into darkness. The officers hesitated, flashlights flickering as they made their way below. The air was stale, damp, and filled with a scent of mold and something faintly metallic. What they found was a small makeshift room no bigger than a garden shed. There was a thin mattress, some old toys, and drawings taped to the concrete walls. Childlike scribbles, most in crayon, some with the name Emma written beside stick figures. Some showed a red-haired girl holding hands with a tall shadow. The radio buzzed as more backup was called in. Above ground, Rachel could barely breathe. Every second dragged. If this place had been used recently, was someone still down there now? As officers continued searching the hidden shelter, one of them called out from a narrow crawl space tucked behind the wall. It was barely large enough for a child to fit through. But there were signs it had been used: scratches on the concrete, a worn blanket, and empty food wrappers no more than a week old. Someone had been there recently, or maybe still was. Then came the biggest shock yet. Tucked in a small tin box inside the crawl space was a stack of old photographs. Most were blurry, taken with an old disposable camera, but they showed a girl with red hair, pale skin, playing in various wooded areas. In one photo, she was sitting by the creek near the back of the park. In another, she was feeding squirrels. The dates on the photos? Just months ago. That meant someone had been watching her. But who had the photos? And more importantly, why had they never brought her home? As police reviewed the images, something else caught their attention. In the background of one photo was a reflection in the creek, an adult figure partially visible, crouched low and holding what looked like a camera. The man appeared familiar, and when officers enhanced the image, it revealed a chilling detail. The jacket he wore was identical to one found in a lost and found box at the park weeks earlier. At that moment, the janitor, Tom Reeves, who had first reported the backpack, stepped forward. But what he said next made everyone freeze. "That's not the first time I found something like this." The moment Tom said those words, silence fell over the scene. The sheriff turned toward him slowly. "What do you mean, not the first?" "Time." Tom shifted uneasily, glancing toward the woods. "A few months back, I found a child's shoe near the North Trail. Thought it was trash at first, like always. But when I picked it up, it was clean. New. I didn't say anything. I wasn't sure what it meant." Officers immediately retraced that path, heading toward the north end of the park. Less than a mile in, they found it a small, hidden cabin almost swallowed by overgrown trees. No one remembered it being there, but it matched the style of old ranger stations used decades ago. Inside, the scene was unsettling. A bed, canned food, coloring books, and more of Emma's drawings, neatly arranged. One wall had tally marks carved deep into the wood, hundreds of them, and then came the sound. From behind a false wall in the back of the cabin came a soft knock, slow, weak. The team pried open the panel to find a small hidden room, barely large enough to sit in. And there she was, Emma, alive. The room went still as Rachel rushed in, tears streaming, arms wide open. But just as they embraced, one officer made a grim discovery in a notebook left on the table. It listed more names. Children's names. Emma was safe, but she hadn't been the only one. And someone else might still be missing. In the days that followed, the quiet Georgia town that had once been gripped by sorrow was now filled with both relief and unanswered questions. Emma was rushed to the hospital for care, and though she was shaken and thin, she was alive and she remembered everything. Through slow conversations, she revealed that a man had kept her hidden, moving her from place to place, always staying close to the park where she disappeared. He warned her never to cry out, convincing her no one was looking anymore. The notebook found in the cabin led to the reopening of several other missing children cases across nearby counties. Authorities believed the person responsible had been involved in more disappearances, using remote park shelters and forest hideouts to avoid being found. While Emma's safe return gave the town hope, it also opened the door to a larger investigation. The man believed to be behind it had vanished, his identity still uncertain. Though police now had enough leads to finally bring attention to the patterns that had long gone unnoticed. Tom, the janitor, was cleared of suspicion and quietly returned to work, but he never again walked the park without scanning the edges of every trail.